What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the other side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
Chris Abacon.
What's going on, everybody?
And Daniel Acevedo.
How's it going, guys?
What's going on? So welcome back to the show. So for all our new listeners, right? So we had our old fan base. Definitely continue to tune in, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for all of your support and comments and all that good stuff. And now we have the Atlanta metro area, so 99.1 FM. What up? And then the Fairfax, DC area as well on Channel 10. So definitely continue to tune in. Monday, Tuesday, our topics. Wednesday, discussion. Thursdays, Ask a CISSP. I should have one up this week with Kenneth Ellington. It's already in the can. And then Fridays, everything else. Movies, books, games, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from HoustonPublicMedia.org, written by Colleen. The title of this one is Federal Cybersecurity Agency Says Voters Should Feel Confident in the Election System. So the reason this is coming out, right? For those of you that aren't paying attention to those commercials that are showing up at your house, those of you in, I'll say in North America at least, right? Because I know some of you might be international, right? But it's election season, right? Yeah.
I just saved my sticker right there. I just put it on. I don't know if you...
But yeah, so it's election season, right? And so it's come up before. You can go back even before 2016. Go back to the 2000 voting. When it comes to distrust in the voting system, right? Jeb helping out George, stuff like that, right? Being the possibly right. I'm not gonna say that's what happened, but it hits harder for 2016 with us, right? And when I'm going through this article and I'm reading it, I did not realize this, and maybe because we talk about them so often, but CISA wasn't stood up until 2016. Till we had the misinformation and disinformation of that election system. That's when CISA got stood up. And because they've hit the ground running and the government has been getting their money out of them for sure.
Yeah.
Did not realize that. I was sure they'd been around forever, right? But CISA is out there putting the word out saying, hey, granted, there is a reason to worry about cybersecurity when it comes to election interference, right? Because I know when I go and vote, right, it's on the systems, the touch systems. It looks very easy. Cybersecurity guy, right? So, but there are some people that may not be used to that type of technology, but they're like, yes, it is safe. It is something that we use, repeatedly out there across the country. But they just want to reassure people, right? Because we don't want to have that narrative again around 2016, 2020 and things of that nature. So, they're just saying, hey, it's safe. And the reason this came out of Harris County in Texas is because of the issue they had with running out of paper ballots back in 2022, right? But again, CISA reassuring us it's safe. We'll see after all is said and done what comes out, what kind of new excuses can be made. If there's proof, there's proof. That's different than just saying it, but you never know. You know what I'm saying? But Daniel, let's start with you, man. What's your thoughts on this?
Man, this one is super timely. Like, I was talking to family and I was like, I just don't know about the voting system. I don't feel secure about it. Talking about all this cybersecurity stuff and what we do. And then I asked Ryan, hey, can you send the rundown so I can look at the articles? And the first one was this one. And I was like, did he read my mind? What's going on here? This is insane. Yeah, it's great. I will say, though, Jen Easterly, head of CISA, strong words. Hack-proof, I don't know if I would be throwing those words out there, because then I feel like they'll be like, okay, challenge accepted. Let's see how hack-proof this is. But, they're doing great things, right? Segregated and disconnected systems, I feel like for these kind of, devices or like this kind of on-bringing for election stuff is the correct way to go. I feel like a lot of other things in the government, high-risk systems like either hospitals or power grids and things like that should be segregated for added insurance. And I hope this actually kind of trickles over into those areas in the future to add more assurance. But, like my wife has a great phrase. I love her for a lot of things, but ever since we dated, she usually says simple is best. And this is a simple solution for what is needed, right? Hard physical security and a segregated system. It's simple, but it's very effective. But I don't know, Chris, do you think this will trickle over into other industries? Do you think our hands are in a safe place for the elections? What are your 2 cents?
I mean, for me, right, I have kind of anecdotal evidence because I went out and voted this past Monday, right? And here in Pinellas County, I actually went and Googled, hey, what do they use for systems? It's a company called Elections Systems and Software, ESS, right? And the actual model that they utilize is this 300 air gaps. They're not connected to the internet, just like the article was saying, right? And I'm looking, so I go into their website and I kind of look at what they've got, like from this security standpoint. And they have here a really cool, two really cool facts. One, of course, every one of their employees is security awareness trained, which is good. Like it's pretty much a general requirement for many government. We've been there, right? But they also have certified systems which require zero errors in 100.5 million positions consecutively, right? They require that level of scrutiny, right? It's pretty cool, and they work in conjunction with the Department of Homeland Security and CISA, of course. So I think the fact that we have CISA working with local governments on this, right? I think it should give the citizens of the United States just a little bit of assurance that, hey, look, they're taking the necessary steps to protect our data. And the fact that I think Jen Easterly I saw her on CNN talking about this, and she's been out there in various news outlets. I think she's been a good champion for this, just kind of to quell the misinformation, because a lot of it out there, a lot of that misinformation, right? It's most likely the outrage you'll see, like, oh, this thing has 1 million shares on X or Instagram or whatever. Probably misinformation, right? It's exaggerated, right? And you can kind of see by if you kind of look at a source that's, oh, this is their only viral post, right? And they have like 2 other posts. Chances are that bot was just created to piss off, or really, again, a divided United States is good for our adversaries. And how do we do that? With the information war. So that's kind of my thing. I think just from the election standpoint, I think we're doing a lot better, and I think CISA is doing a great job of proactively ensuring that there are measures in place. So Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I really agree with you guys, not only because of just the disinformation is just abound, man. Like people are just talking crazy. And I don't think it's ever changed, right? Like the quote unquote muck raking has been around since the beginning of American politics, right? Like there were laws against it when we were first established. Like you couldn't say things against your opponent that were false and things of that nature. You go to jail, and that has gone to the wayside our entire lives. So like I think what has made it more vocal and loud is social media. Like as the internet age came about, it went from tabloids like. I haven't seen a tabloid in a long time, but like Bat Boy ran for president, things like that, like those type of tabloids at your grocery store, and then it kind of bled into every form you could think of on social media, especially your mega platforms, right? Your Facebooks, your Twitters, and so on and so forth. So it's not going to go anywhere. So I just hope that people are more informed. Like and Jen Easterly, we trust, right? Like I think she's been a boon when it comes to national cybersecurity. Like I like a lot of the initiatives she's pushed, and then just her whole vibe around how CISA does business has been pretty cool. So I am very confident that that won't be our issue. Won't be the voting machines. Our issue is going to be just people talking to their friends and their family and saying they saw something that they deemed to be suspicious that wasn't even suspicious. Just misinformed and dare I say uneducated masses. What's going to cause the issue after this election. I can't wait for this election cycle to be over. I agree with all of you. I'm tired of it already. So regardless of the outcome, I just don't want to talk about it for another 4 years, but that's not going to be the case, right? Like the entire, I don't know, like at least 8 to 12 years, we've been talking about how everything is upside down and everybody disagrees with one another. So I don't know where that's going to go, but I feel very confident in the voting machines. But what I looked up is that, like, yeah, we have really cool voting machines, but that's not across the entire country. It goes down to local jurisdiction, there we go, as well as budget constraints, how good your voting machines are, right? But on top of all that, though, is CISA and as well as local non-bipartisan establishments that make sure that voting goes the way it's supposed to go. So there might be a few oddities, right? That people have been voting since Lincoln, time, so it's nothing new. Anything that's going to cause a huge disparity in voting has been pretty much ruled out. So the reason why I picked this article is I kind of want to put people's fears aside, but I say that this comes out on Monday, and then Tuesday is the vote. So by Wednesday, God knows. I'm excited. I'm actually going to go vote on voting day, only because it's my daughter's first year, right? She's a grown up now in college, and it doesn't work out for her schedule to do early voting. So we're going to go on the day because she's excused from class to do so. So we're going to all go as
That's
a
awesome.
family, and it's going to be cool. It'll be her
That's
first
pretty
time.
cool.
So yeah, we'll see how everything goes and make sure everybody's cool at the polls.
All right, everybody. This article comes from techradar.com, written by Benedict Collins. And the title of this one is Ransomware Crew Poses Microsoft Teams IT Support to Steal Logins and Passwords, right? This is an age-old one that always works, right? Pretend like you're somebody out to help someone, and almost always just willfully give you access to whatever you need, right? I remember Dell used to do this, right? Like whenever you needed help with Dell, they would have you install the software, blah, 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 go through and do all that. Well, it's something that's already tried and true that you know about that they're just utilizing, right? But what they're using now is new technology. You got to advance with the times, right? So they're using Microsoft Teams to make this happen, right? So what they're doing is they're inundating people's email boxes with a bunch of stuff, right? They're saying, okay, they're sending a bunch of trash, so then you can't delineate. You're like, hey, I got all this stuff. You're not paying attention, and then all of a sudden they hit you up, and it seems like something's going on, right? They hit you up and say, hey, we need to help you out. You're having these issues. Go ahead and install this software, right? Boom, you do it. You're like, okay. This sounds legit, right? I remember, just like I said, right, back in the day, Dell used to do this, right? So it seems um, official enough, right? But if you're really paying attention, they're using an age old trick, right? It's coming from a domain, or that's using a domain that's not really accurate, right? So you see the Microsoft.com and you're not really paying attention, and it's on Microsoft.com, right? So you're like, that's not real. That's not legit, right? But you're not paying attention. You see what you want to see, right? Because you need help right then and there, right? You gotta get back in your email because you need to get back into your social medias, right? That's how they get you to get log back onto your Tic Tacs and your Z's. You know, I don't know. I know what they're called. I'm not that old. I just don't use them. It's just being funny, but yeah. Spear spam is what they call this, though, right? That's what the process is that they do when they inundate you with all this stuff. But yeah, they're back at it again, man. Black Beta is the name of this ransomware gang that's doing this. But folks, be careful out there. Look at the actual domain names. Look at what you're opening up. You know what I mean? If it doesn't look right, it more than likely isn't. Just pay attention out there. All right. But Chris, what's your thoughts on this one, man?
So me, I think it's a pretty genius idea to be utilizing Microsoft Teams, and I want to highlight the fact that these guys were using an Entra ID tenant, which is essentially an Azure Active Directory tenant, right? So check this out. So this is like hacking as a service. They're using Azure Cloud to perform this type of stuff, right? So the on Microsoft.com is actually a legit domain from Microsoft. It's the default domain on Entra ID. When you make, for example, if you guys go and create a Azure cloud instance for, let's say, if you want to start your own small business, right? On Microsoft.com, plus whatever company you make, like in this case, they utilize Security Admin Helper. That's going to be your domain, right? But it's actually, honestly, I'm like, dude, that's genius, right? So they utilize, you know how when you have Teams, you can go into somebody else's tenant as a guest, right? But they're doing this like an entirely backwards and in just ingenious way.
I was not aware of that because I've never seen that.
Yeah, so if you go on Azure and just create like get like a trial Microsoft Office 365 for Business account, right? And you go into like the Entra ID, and on Microsoft is actually the default like domain, right? It's going to be like your name on Microsoft.com, or your business, right, at on Microsoft.com, right? All these guys did is, your help desk at on Microsoft.com. Chances are, at a quick glance, you're not going to notice, it says Microsoft.com on it, especially because it's on Microsoft.com. I'm like, that's actual, Microsoft domain. Just because this is an instance of the bad guy using the same tools as you guys are, as the good guy. That's what it is. Like, hey, we're both in Ford F-150s. right? I can pull you out of the mud. I don't know. It's kind of a bad analogy, but
It's Florida. You described
Yeah,
Florida.
that's what I was saying.
but that's really what I just think that these organizations are getting very brazen, right? And they're just being very like, this is innovative stuff, really, from my standpoint. Like, a lot of this stuff is coming from Russia, according to ReliaQuest, and really, like Shannon said, be careful, guys. Just be careful. So, Daniel, what are your thoughts?
But my reasoning was because I didn't know the onmicrosoft.com was actually a legit domain though. Like I don't think that in the one like in all of the Microsoft teams that I utilize, and I have a couple different ones. I have one for my business, I have one for DoD. I don't remember it saying onmicrosoft.com.
Right.
It's
You
on the
would go into it's on the like configuration page when you like create your own
you as an admin on the Azure side, on the Azure side, as the cloud management side, it'll be on Microsoft is what it comes up as. But yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth, Chris, though, because I was going to say this is like using the IT playbook against the good guys, essentially. Even more so, it's like they know you as a user, right? If I have an issue, all of a sudden it springs up. I just can't walk down the hall and talk to my IT person. You have to put a ticket in. You have to wait to be called. And then there's all these procedures for these things to be fixed. So if all of a sudden I'm getting spear spammed, but by the way, amazing name, my head off. These guys are great. I can't just like go and get help. But then all of a sudden somebody calls me or hits me up on Teams from the IT department and be like, hey, we know there's an issue right now going on with Outlook. We're trying to fix it. Can I please remote into your machine? I need you to download this stuff so I can get in there and remediate all this stuff. It's really hard. This is a really advanced, but as simple as best. It's a really advanced tactic, but it's very simple and low level. So the only thing I could think of on the top of my head would be like, if I'm working and I'm having a really bad issue all of a sudden, and all of a sudden I'm getting hit up by my IT department at that same exact second, maybe that's a red flag. Maybe, IT is good, they're not that good. So
make sure to verify your IT teams. Like, you got to know these people. Like, it makes sure it's right.
They almost always will put out a notification for you to. Like my experience has been, they will put out the notification saying there's a problem, reach out to them, right? Which you know how to
especially if it's systematic or if it's widespread. But this is also a big corporation or big industry's problem. You have a lot of users, you have a decent sized amount of IT people, but things like this will slip through the cracks. That's why it's such low hanging fruit. Ryan, I don't know. For me, the only thing I can think of, maybe the outcome of this will be better, like security awareness on these kind of things. Hey, if you're having a really bad issue, fact check somebody that's reaching out to you right away before you allow somebody to like remote into your machine. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you guys verified that you should zero trust means trust no one, right? Like, so whether regardless if it's a framework that's actually put in within your organization or just you being hyper vigilant and aware. It's funny because you say like if the IT team is being too helpful, it might not be your actual IT team. As a former help desk guy, I'm just like, yeah, you're right, because like the chances of me reaching out to you quickly is very slim to none. I'm gonna wait till you have a problem. You're gonna reach out to me. But no, like it is ingenious, and it's I hate to give bad guys credit. Sometimes you have to give them their flowers. Like, this is a really good scheme. My whole thing is like, yeah, it is a little too convenient, but on top of it, you should have multiple channels, right? Like, so at my work, like we got a Slack, we have Teams, we got email. You can always make a Teams call. There's several different levels before I just automatically jump onto something. Even to the point where they did a little sphere phishing simulation, and I contacted my supervisor immediately because I was like, oh, this looks like, kind of check, because I'm a consultant. I'm not on the IT team or security team. You know what I mean? Like I do something different. So when I saw it, I thought someone was actually trying to get us. I had annoyed my boss because I kept reaching out. She was like, just report it and then go about your business, basically. Like the friendlier tone, right? But I was just like, and then it finally clicked. I was like, oh, it's probably a campaign. And I'm throwing flags out here. I'm like, hey, did anybody else see this? But no, like, again, this is a very ingenious way of conducting nefarious business. And you just have to be paranoid. Like, just be careful of whom you're contacting and how you're contacting. Talk to your coworkers, see if they're also having these issues, things of that nature. Like, just be kind of annoying, right? Like before you are trusting to one of these entities. But
All right, everybody. This article is from darkreading.com, and it's written by Tara Seals. And the title of this one is Cybersecurity Job Market Stagnates, Dissatisfaction Abounds. All right. So ISC Square, they did a cybersecurity workforce study, and they said it's a tightening job market and dynamic cyber threat. In this tightening job market and dynamic cyber threat environment, ongoing staffing and skills shortages are putting organizations at serious risk. And then it asks the question that I'm like, oh, this is where it starts. If I haven't said it before, it's where it starts. Can AI move the needle, right, in defenders' favor, right? So my answer is no, it won't. There will always have to be a human element. You never know, right? Like, that's just how it is. But what they talk about here, the need for cybersecurity. I don't want to say it not being necessary. We know it's necessary. We do this every week. We tell you why it's necessary. We give you the examples of it. But I think what is going on is that there are companies that decide this is where they can cut the fat, the perceived fat, I should say, right? Because they think, oh, when it comes to cybersecurity and IT, I don't necessarily have to pay these people the money I need to pay them and what they're demanding, and there's a reason for it, right? Because you're losing out. If you allow cybersecurity to take a backseat in your organization, you're going to pay for it eventually, right? You need to believe that. Okay, it's proven time and time again. You know what I mean? And what they try to do is, even if they say, okay, I won't get rid of this whole department altogether, what they start doing is they start double and triple hatting people, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
not only are you going to be, this bad, but you're also going to be, the cybersecurity person, which doesn't make sense, right? It's a conflict of interest in itself, right? Because that part's going to be easy. You're like, oh, I could do this easily and just say, oh yeah, we're good. You know what I mean? That's why there's the separation of duties for that, because those two don't automatically go hand in hand with each other, right? Like, to have a good to do some good system administration when it comes to automation and things of that nature. I mean, it's a good way to do things, but it may not always be the safest, right? You may be using methods that introduce vulnerabilities into your networks, right? But they talk about the negligible increase, which is 0.1% increase from 2023 when it talks about year over year hiring, and that is very low. That's very dismal, right? And it's, as it states in the article, very negligible. So um, eh, companies that are out there, believe me, cybersecurity is needed, right? One of the other things they kind of hit on in the article is maybe the qualifications for some of the people, and they start to mention different figures about how some people in these organizations that are working cybersecurity may not be trained to the level that they need to be, right? Like, don't have the qualifications that they need, right? Which, as a company, if that is the case, do your best to get them up to speed to where they need to be. Okay, it's going to pay out for you for the amount of money you're going to pay to get them certifications or to get them the training, whatever. It is well worth it for what you can lose, whether it be what you're going to be paying out in your cybersecurity your IT insurance, your cybersecurity insurance, and things of that nature. You just got to be on top of this. But yeah, this is disheartening to see, right? Because we've talked about it all the time. The hundreds of thousands of jobs in this field that are available out there. But Daniel, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, as you're walking us through this article, I remember, like, I think it was about a month ago we had another article that talked about this, about the cybersecurity, like, job openings, or like the rate of open positions in the 250,000 or something like that. It's rough, right? This article goes on and talks about the burnout cybersecurity in IT, which is a very real thing. It's disheartening, kind of sad, especially when they talk about, like, percentage of raise or the satisfaction in the job for a position that's very much necessary and critical. But unfortunately, working in cybersecurity, working in information security, it was middle management. Luckily, I had great bosses that understood this, but I saw it from other colleagues where they see it as a necessity and a checkbox, especially working with defense contracting or working with the government. We have to have this in place, but they don't see it as anything more than that. They don't see the added benefit of preventing ransomware or the saved money in, not having the secret sauce of their Big Mac being exposed, and then their competitors stealing that, and then, selling what's theirs. Um, I don't know if there's a solution. I know I'm always like the doom and gloom guy of our group, but I don't know where there's a silver lining, except that there's a lot of interest from people wanting to get into the field. But I don't know if the larger corporations are steering towards just paying third party companies to be their cybersecurity providers rather than hiring people in-house to do this anymore. So when we go to the 1% increase of the hiring from year to year, I'm wondering if that's the shift that we're seeing. The article doesn't say it, but people are still having cybersecurity departments and compliance, right, Chris? So if they're not hiring people, where's that coming from then? What do you think?
I mean, really, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the in-house versus outsourcing, right? You can either in-house hire a cybersecurity analyst, right, to get all of your policies, procedures in place from the governance standpoint, and then be an advocate for the technological improvements, which that I think can be expensive too. If you're talking, hey, let's put a XDR, EDR on each machine, you've got 100 machines at what, $8 a month, that's $8K a month for your business, right? Just consider, like, is $8K a month for, is that a lot of money for your business? I don't know. And again, that's just, a random example. It could be more expensive than that, because if you're working with big organizations that have, hundreds of users, hundreds of laptops, right? It's not just one EDR solution you're buying. You're paying for, you're potentially paying for like a zero trust solution. You're paying for a VPN capability. You're paying for Azure cloud users. You're paying for licenses, right? So it's a big investment. IT is a massive investment, and I understand that. I think we all understand that from our standpoint, right? With our experience. But to convince the COO, CFO that don't have the IT background, that are money, they are the money guys and gals. They look at, hey, how is this capital expense, operational expense worth it when it's not necessarily showing us any tangible, objective evidence. But the only thing that you can do is kind of say, hey, look, this is how much it would cost for your organization, if this were to happen. You can articulate it that way to a senior leader. But with respect to the workforce, right? I think there's I would say a few tiers in cybersecurity jobs, right? You've got the policy governance side, kind of where I work. You got the technical people that are the SOC analysts and stuff like that are on call, or they're working at a security operations center, shift work, right? And then you got somewhere the people that are in between, right? You got the people that are like, okay, we're just trying to figure stuff out. We're trying to incorporate cybersecurity into our business. And I think from a business standpoint, I don't think that's been really, there's not a lot of, there's cybersecurity master's degrees and all that stuff out there, but it's not as robust as, hey, we've got a finance department, we've got an accounting department, right? And I think that once the business operational end is understood by everybody in the organization and really in business as a whole, people can either make that decision, hey, are we going to outsource this, get an MSP, or are we going to build our own in-house department? And that's the thing too, and these MSPs have to be hiring, right? These SOC analysts. I mean, are they outsourcing these jobs? I mean, a lot of them are probably outsourced, right? They've got SOC analysts all over the world, so that's something to consider. Unless a company wants to have a solely U.S.-based MSSP, right? So there's all these factors that that cite these. But I think in our at the high level, I think it's it's the Fed trying to talking finance now. It's deflationary pressures. There's less money in the money supply, right? There's less money for investment. So really less money to invest and play with. So that's really where I stand on this. It's just there's less on there, and I think money crunchers are saying, hey, look, maybe it's not worth the expense. We're not making any money right now.
So real quick, Ryan, I know you want to go, man. But so Daniel, to your point, right? So they address it in the article. So when I was talking about cut the fat, they address it in the article that it's budget that's making this happen, right? So I don't think it's accurate to say it's budget. It's a matter of priority, right? Like you have the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you say you don't have time for something, right? Like, man, I just don't have time for that. You'll make the time.
Right.
For something that you want to do, right? It's the same thing here. When it comes to budget, you've chosen to allocate your money elsewhere, right? Is where it comes down to. But Ryan, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. It's a weird juxtaposition, right? Like this conversation is so nuanced. You can look at it from so many different perspectives.
Right.
So for me, when I look at it, if you're a billion or $1 trillion company, then you're kind of getting ready for the fallout. Like you're shrinking, you're cutting costs, you're getting rid of people and layoffs and things of that nature. You're not plussing up because you feel like bad times are coming. However, for the past couple of years, you've been also boasting record-making profits. So it's a weird juxtaposition that they're currently in, which I can't necessarily, I can't carry water for them, right? But if you're a mom and pop organization and you're also trying to weather the storm that you feel is incoming, then yes, this is cost center. You're not making any money off of this, and you want to not pay someone six figures to be in your organization to properly secure you. So then, of course, you look for, okay, how can I save money? How can I get a fractional CISO or some MSSP or something to help me to get at least good enough, so that way I don't have the regulation and violations and things of that nature, right? So now instead of paying somebody 350, 250, 150, maybe you get away with $85 an hour or something like that. Like you're trying to figure out like how can I get this done without dipping too far into the operational expenses. And then as a company like Ram now, right? I'm trying to expand, right? Like to be a consultant is a profit center, right? Like I'm looking to add value to a company. I'm trying to get my foot in the door, be their fractional CISO or whatever consultant, things of that nature. But you can't pay me bargain basement prices, right? Like I have a company also to run, and I can't offer you as much value if I have to now pick up 3, 4, 5, 6 different clients to make the money that I'm supposed to make to keep going. So I don't know what the tiebreaker is, to be honest with you. In that situation, at the let's say the lower tier, right, the mom and pops, things of that nature, that's gonna all have to shake itself out. But these companies that are boasting record making profits and are on the market at $1 trillion, $1 million, $1 billion caps, they have to stop squeezing like they're squeezing. I just don't think that that's rational or fair. Like for you to say, well, we have to shed 15% of our workforce in order to weather a storm that may never come. Like it just seems as though you're saying the sky is falling and it's not, right? You're crying wolf too much. And I think that's going to catch up to them. It's going to be a humongous either breach, leak, or fines for compliance. They're going to get slammed at some point because they're going to get breached. You simply cannot triple, quadruple hat people and expect to get the same value out of them, or just leave a gap and just say like we're gambling because someone's going to hit the jackpot. It's going to be in a bad way. So I think that they need to start to figure it out, and then that'll trickle down to everybody else. But as long as your humongous companies keep doing what they're doing with the shedding of the workforce, it's just bad for all of us. That's just my opinion, right? Obviously, I'm very small business. So I think they call it a solopreneur or whatever. It's just me, one man army, right? And I'm working with the mom and pops, so I'm not working with the billion and $1 trillion companies. But that's just my perspective. Um, but it's just I feel as though that they're setting the table, making the rules, and then like, we're all getting scratched because of it. I could be wrong, right? I haven't been in this side of the business for very long, but that's just the way it feels. Because as long as they keep squeezing down on us, then the rest of us are basically gambling right now. So we'll see what comes of it. But yeah, I didn't like this article. But it was very well written, and it's just that it's doom and gloom right now. Like when are we going to flip the switch? Like maybe it's after election day, but maybe not. Like maybe for the next, like maybe this is their excuse to continue to squeeze, make record making profits, and then like if you keep saying something bad is going to happen, sooner or later you're going to be right, but it might not be in the next 2 to 4 years. It might be in the 8 to 12, right? Because we don't know what the future holds. So I just feel as though it's putting us all at a disadvantage, but that's just my 2 cents. Any follow-ups before I land this plane?
I'm snapping.
That's my personal opinion, right? This is my 2 cents. Take for what it's worth. Without further ado, how's everybody's week? We'll start with Shannon.
It was pretty good, man. The Halloween by, right? I know we've said several times how we do the production schedule, right? So this past week, Halloween didn't have as many people come by the house, so we got a lot of candy here. So I hate to waste money, so I gotta eat it all, I guess, right? I guess that's how.
There you go.
No, what is it? what ends up happening is that everybody brings that extra into work, and so for the next month and a half, we're eating all this. How that works, right? Just passing a table that has some at work, like, ooh, Reese
Right.
cups. I love
It's my
that.
my second favorite holiday. My first is for that is Girl Scout season.
Oh
You
yeah,
bring the cookies in.
in
Bring them in.
February, yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you on that. I hear you on that for sure. Yeah, children had a good time. That's really what we do it for, right? Like it's not for me anymore. I actually did dress up. I did put my send you guys a picture of what I went at. It was a Taco Bell sauce T-shirt that had the Diablo on it. My wife had one. My sister-in-law had the other one. So yeah, that's what we went as. So it was a fun time. They had fun. When it came to media and what I was watching. So Ryan, you put me onto that. It's Florida Man, and I've watched
Yeah.
the 3 episodes, and I'm like, this is just crazy, man. And like, the stories seem unbelievable, but then they have the people that are the real life people from
Right.
the events in there talking about them, and you're just like, what? Like this really happened? Like, but yeah, it's like Florida, man. Like I've been
Yeah.
stationed there. I don't know if I ever want to go back. We'll see.
So my favorite so far is the second one where the dude lost his arm.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a crazy story.
He was. So have you watched the third one?
I just started the third one.
Okay, yeah. That's I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. Like more comes out of it to where how is this woman able to do this? And it's like, oh, that makes sense on how she's able to do it. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
because I started it, but I had to cut it off because the kids were still awake. It was like some kind of like cult ritual thing happened. I was like, click, nope.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Some of the stuff they show, you're like, yeah, I can't do
Yeah.
that around the. But yeah, it's Florida Man. That was a pretty decent one. That's a good series. I'm getting into watching my documentary phase hasn't really gone away recently, and I watched this one called Breath of Fire. So I watched the one before that had the Vikram yoga guy and how he was like kind of crooked. They got another one on yoga, Kimdala yoga, some other type of yoga, and I started that one, and I'm like, man, here we go again. Like it's weird, right? Like I hate to say anything is a cult, right? Because there are people out there that'll tell you religion is a cult, right? The only difference between the cults and established religions right now is time. That's what people will say, right? Like, oh, Christianity's been around for this long, Hinduism been around for this long, Islam been around for this long. So they're not considered cults, right? But when you have something that do like Scientology, they're like, oh, that's a cult. Well, give it time. It'll be an established religion that everybody recognizes, right? That's kind of what people say. And I say this, and full disclosure, right? Like I am not a practicing Christian. I hate to say that, right? But like I believe in God, right? I say my prayers before I lay my head down. I say grace before I eat my food, right? I do believe there is a higher power. That's just me, right? But there are some things about it that I'm like, nah. I don't know. Organized religion gets me sometimes, but okay. I'm not trying to get us canceled. So, but
Too late.
yeah, this is an interesting one when they're talking about this yoga because what they tried to do is they tried to make it seem like religion was a very big part of it, right? That's kind of how they legitimized it. But it's an interesting take on it. But it's called Breath of Fire, is what it's called. So I gotta get the then. My wife and I am watching High Potential. How far have you got into High Potential, Ryan? Let me ask you that. How many episodes?
I'm still only on the second episode. Like I don't my schedule keeps getting jacked up because I'm really interested in it. So it's not definitely not a bad show. I just haven't gotten to through the next episode yet.
So I think it picks up again to where it starts at. Like there was a lull. Like I told you, like episode 3 kind of goes down for me, 3, 4, 5, like this, and then episode 6, I'm like, oh okay, I like where it's going again. Right? They kind of got back to where it was. But yeah, my wife and I, we watch that every chance we get. Whenever she can get that 44 or whatever it is, because we have Hulu Live, we don't have cable television, right? So it's us watching it with trying to get it without the ads and all that. But um, yeah, it's a series. What else did I watch? I was watching something else that I was like, this is another weird thing. I can't remember what it was. It'll eventually come back to me, and I'll put it in the group chat. But yeah, man, it was a good week. I won't complain. Children had a good Halloween, taking in some decent content that's making me think. Oh, my wife and I started watching this TV series. Elsbeth is the name of it, and apparently,
Oh yeah, I've seen some trailers. She's like very awkward or
yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
But it's a spinoff of The Good Wife and another spinoff from that or something like that. I think is what it was from. I've never seen The Good Wife or whatever, so I just thought it was its own show. But then I was looking something up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's a spinoff." So she was a character on The Good Wife and The Good Life or something like that. There's another one, but yeah, it's a detective type show, right? Like even though she's not a detective, she's a lawyer that's there with the NYPD on a consent decree because they had some issues with some stuff not lining up when their work. So they brought in an outside force, right? But there was ulterior motive So it's an interesting show, and she is quirky, right? Like, so it's like kind of weird, but yeah, my wife and I have been watching that one. But that's pretty much been it for me, man. Nothing outside of that. What about you, Chris? How's your week?
Week was actually pretty good. Actually, I went and voted on Monday, so that was a good time. It was actually fairly quick. It was here in St. Petersburg, so it was in and out, and it was secure. Yeah, no drama. Um, but the weekend before that, actually last weekend, we did a little Halloween party. It was like Harry Potter themed, right? I was Snape. I put white makeup on, so that was a real funny hit. So and I had a wig and everything. Yeah, canceled for sure, but it was a good time,
Yeah.
right? We catered some food. It was like 12,
Nice.
13 people, maybe 14 people showed up. It was good. Um, but yeah, drinks, food, the business. It was a lot of fun. And then that was last weekend. Me, obviously, I'm wearing my Vikings gear. I'm repping. I was telling them earlier offline that every time I've worn this purple Viking shirt, the Vikings have lost. So I want to break the curse this week, and hopefully we can make it again at the time of this recording. Hopefully we can beat the Indianapolis Colts. But on the football end,
Everybody knows who to blame now. It's you.
exactly
Yeah.
right. But on the football end, right? Minnesota, Big Ten, big following Big Ten. Sorry about the loss yesterday, Shannon. That was probably
All the time. I tell people
all the time.
every year, Michigan and Ohio State is where we're going to lose. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I stopped watching the game. Like, I was watching it. I didn't watch the beginning of the third
Mhm.
quarter. I saw Drew Aller, 2 consecutive sacks. I was like, I'm turning this off. I don't want to see this.
No, you get triggered.
I was like, I'm going to be so, like, it was just ridiculous. Like, we are better than that. You know what I mean? So it happened, though. I knew it was going to happen.
So for me, right, like Minnesota's won some pretty decent games in the last few weeks, right? So we've been kind of on a hot streak, but we beat the top 25 at Illinois yesterday. So that's fun. So we're actually in the top end of the Big Ten now, which was 6-3. So I'm just like, what's going on here, right? But college football is getting pretty exciting. It was actually here in Florida. We had Florida Georgia, right? That was going on, and that's always a big game. But Florida was leading for a majority of that game in the beginning. So that would have been exciting to see Georgia lose. But again, I'm not too invested into the SEC. It's like until playoffs, but Big Ten all the way. And then on the media end, wife and I have been new episodes of British Bake Off are out, so check that out. It's our winter tradition, winter fall tradition. We start that, and it goes through the 10 episode series. Also, the Harry Potter movies.
Some of that stuff. Like, do you ever try like, hey, I see what
I don't, but my wife bakes bread and stuff like that. So
Nice.
it's always a good thing. One of these days we should just get like the Bake Off cookbook and just go to town on it'd be a holiday thing, like on Christmas or something. Just make all those, like they have like a lot of British food has like fruit in it, like the fruit cakes and stuff like that, carrot cakes.
So
I like fruit
I'm
cake.
just asking because I know
Me too.
more than one. You've mentioned it more than once that you watch it. So I was like, well, maybe like you're like, hey, that looks like a good idea. Let's go ahead and date that or try that.
Yeah, so eventually we will, but I think the family here makes a lot of bread, right? And then bread based, or like we'll make like brownies, cornbread, and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy just yet. No big cakes. I like cake, so that's maybe something that I would pursue. We got a little stand mixer, just throw some flour in there. How hard could it be, right? It's just chemistry.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's actual science. So
It's science. No, I'm gonna mess that up so badly. It's gonna be
You say that
hilarious.
you forget the ingredient, and then you're like, oh, that's
Man,
Why
I'd
does
be
it
like
taste like
Gordon.
this?
I'd be like Gordon Ramsay, like it's raw. Just completely
throw it
mess
on the
it up.
ground.
Yeah, but on the other end, right? Like we watched a show last year. It was called The Diplomat. It's about the diplomat going to the UK, right? And the second season just came out, and I really like it. It's a good show. And other than that, on the end, I've been looking at, I think discussed a few podcasts ago, but exploring a new computer, blah blah blah. But the Mac Mini just came out, and I was telling them earlier, I'm like, that thing is beautiful. It's like this tight. It's like 5x5.
It's so
It's
small.
small, but like
Sign me up.
even the base model is at $600, at $599 before tax. It's got 16 gigs of RAM and the M4 processor. I'm like, I'm glad that Apple's like making things so, I would say, affordable finally. Like, I mean, the Mac Mini's always been affordable, but this is very powerful stuff for $600.
Right.
Just plug in a monitor and a keyboard and mouse, and you're good to go. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I think it's a great addition. But other than that, pretty boring week. Go vote.
Go
How was
vote.
your week, Daniel?
It was good. It was good. Trick or treating. They did it big on the base over here. My first time in Yokosuka, so shout out to them. It was just the houses came out. They decorated. Parents were sitting out there with bowls of candy. Kids were living it up. My kid got a big old bag full. I had to like slow her down. I'm like, hey, you gotta take it easier for her. Heart's gonna explode. I need you to. I don't let her eat that much candy. Bounce off the walls and pop into yellow dust. Like you need to chill out. But then me and my wife took turns of like having the worst allergies and sinuses we've ever had in like the history of the world. It was like 2 days for me, and then I got better, and then literally it finished, and then that night she started sneezing, and her for 2 days. Like this part of Japan where we live, it's hilarious. It's like it was super hot, and then it was like F you, no fall, straight into winter. It's freezing now. Go. And then it was like raining for like 5 days straight. Yeah, it was rough, but we're better. It was just like just because of the weather and the rain and stuff like that. But we had a good time. We enjoyed it. Besides the sneezing, besides that, I set some stuff up, got some lights. I got this bad boy too, which I had it on some of the episodes today, but I shut it off because they said my camera's flickering. But just trying to like match you guys in the aesthetics because I felt like mine looked like a prison cell with like bare walls. It was looking pretty rough there for a while. But you got a nice.
I got nothing behind me. Like I'm in my basement. Like I picked the barest wall in my basement. Like if I was to do one of the other walls, you'd see Raven stuff, you'd see some pictures and whatnot. But no, I'm like, nah. This is it right here. This will work.
I'm in the living room.
Part of the
Right?
incognito
I have a
zone.
roller desk, so I just roll my desk into the living room.
I missed it, Shannon. I said that Chris's looked like a fake background from Teams. Like when you're on a Teams call, you can choose like the backgrounds. His house looks too nice. It's amazing.
You could tell he doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
Got white furniture? Are you crazy?
Yeah, let's go.
Kids or animals or pets. Or you have a pet, right, Chris?
I have pets, yeah.
Okay.
See,
Man,
the
pets
pads on the couch, that's because pets.
That's true. That makes sense.
Gotcha.
Let me see. So media-wise, basketball's back. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm a big basketball fan.
Nice. What's your team?
Lakers, unfortunately.
Okay. Dude, they're playing well now.
They are. But I'm not a big Anthony Davis fan because he aggravates me the way he plays. I wish he'd play with more intensity, like Giannis or some of these other players. And he's always hurt. And then LeBron is like never gonna retire. He's gonna play till he's like 175 or something.
He's got to win a championship with his son.
Bronny.
So however long that's, better hope it happens soon.
So let me
he's
ask
gonna play till he's 80.
So let me ask you this, Daniel. LeBron is 40 years old, or soon to be 40 years old in December, right, or whatever it is.
Yep.
And he's playing at a level that is unseen in basketball, right? So, like, do you want him?
Time out. It has Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Put some respect on my guy's name. He was playing until his 40.
At 40 years old, Kareem was not averaging 25, 7, and 8, whatever.
I think not that because LeBron's a freak of nature. Like, all right, he's not human, but like Kareem was still pretty productive at that age. But he's the only other player in the history of the NBA. I'll give him that. That was doing this.
His numbers were not what LeBron's are, and when he
he
was at that age, magic was there. You know what I mean? All other star players. LeBron is doing it with, like you said, a broken AD. Cannot, like, if you get more intensity out of him, he's gonna miss more games, and you don't want that either.
Well, I'll give AD the benefit. He's been playing really good this season. I know he's a sneeze away from like breaking his back or something. Like that's just how Anthony Davis is built. Like I don't get this guy. He's like how many inches taller than me? He's like built like a Greek god, but like I don't know. He gets up from a chair and he like twists his ankle.
He's soft as flowers. Wet flowers are.
Yeah. But yeah, so I've been getting into the basketball. It's hard to watch it over here because of time difference. So I just catch the highlights or I'll watch something pre-recorded or something like that. We're still slowly watching Shogun. I think I still love the show. It's amazing. I even think Shannon, I think you actually might even like it. There is a little bit more reading than you probably would like because a lot of it's actually in Japanese to my surprise.
That I don't mind. But like I have hard hearing. I'm hard of hearing. The military. I was a jet engine mechanic. So like my hearing is not the best. So I'm always watching closed captions.
Yeah, me too.
I'm always doing that. So that's not a problem. And I know, like, whenever they do those shows like that, they're always beautiful. But I've talked to people that have watched them, and they're like, Yeah, you get a lot of the dialogue and this and the third. You know, that ain't my jam. Like if you a samurai, cut some heads off. I need to see that all the time.
Right, right.
That,
Somebody
that,
has to
that
get, somebody
happens.
has to get decapitated.
That happens too. And the pacing is not bad in the show. That's why I think you wouldn't hate it. I feel like the pacing is pretty good, so you kind of like stay with the story. And the season's short, so I think that helps it out too. We're like halfway through, so we really want to finish it, but we're still getting adjusted. I mean, we've only been here, I think, 4 months. We had 5 months. It's going fast, but I unloaded everything in the house now, and I'm trying to put everything where it goes. I'm buying more stuff to put stuff away. I'm finding stuff that I haven't seen in like 2 years. I'm like, why do we still have this? And like throwing crap away. So that's been most of my week. Basketball reclips, a little bit of Shogun. Haven't really done a lot of gaming. I kind of miss it. My heart hurts a little bit, but that's fine. I'm trying to get all this lighting and like video stuff. I hired somebody to make me the WordPress website, so we're going through that. I'm trying to figure out how to make a logo. I thought it would be easier. It's not that easy. Everything I use, every AI tool that I use, I give it prompts and it's giving me back stuff that I don't like. And I'm like, no, do better. And then it says it's sorry, but it's not human. So I can't like really get frustrated. I'm frustrated. So that's been my week. I'm just trying to get this whole thing like spun up to start doing the vlogs and the blogs and posting all that stuff. But how was your week, Ryan?
Not bad. So like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. So what did I watch? So I watched Agatha all along. I marathoned it. Got finally waited for it to finish. Wasn't bad. It gives you a lot of really good detail, but it's lore that you don't need for the rest of the movies. So, like if you're like a nerd like us, you might want to watch it to get just like, okay, this fills me in on a bunch of the stuff that was happening in Westerview and the characters that were in WandaVision and what happened to them afterward. But completely non-consequential to the rest of the MCU. Just if they make more TV shows, they might weave these characters back into them at some point, or it might just be standalone. I don't know. Like Disney's been doing that a lot, where it's just like you get a WandaVision, and then like Agatha All Along is the sequel to that, right? But a lot of the characters don't migrate over. Some of them do. So you'll see people from Westerview, you feel like that's kind of funny, but some of them don't. So it's just non-consequential in that way. And then I watched a little bit of it's Florida Man. So I got to the third episode of that one. Yeah, episode 2 is crazy when the dude got his arm ripped off by the gator, and he's just so happy. It's still so optimistic about life.
Very, and at the end, he was like, "Man, I feel like going over there again." It was like, why would you do that? Like you will not survive it a second time. Because he's at the scene. Like, for y'all that haven't watched it, he is
Yeah.
at the place where it happened. Like, he goes back to visit it. And as he's looking over this broken wire, he's like, man, and he gets emotional about it. Like, I want to go over there again. You know what I mean? And I'm like, why? Like, are you trying to get yourself in? Like, are we? That's not what I'm here to
He's
watch.
bad man. He survived, like, not to give too much away, but he survived 3 days with the arm chopped off. Yeah, because he couldn't get out.
Pretty much,
He was,
yeah, pretty much enough.
yeah. So I mean,
Jesus Christ.
Count your blessings,
yeah,
exactly, right?
yeah. Just I don't know how you did that, but so watch a little bit of that. I did get some gaming in, so I've been playing Space Marine 2, so Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, gorgeous game, gorgeous, very dude bro shooter. Like it's scratching that Gears of War itch. You got these big hulking dudes running around. Well, like for the spirit machine. So many enemies on screen at once. Like I did a screen capture of some really bad gameplay, and I couldn't share it with you guys because the file was like 500 meg for like it was like less than a minute, or like it was like a minute and a half or something like that. But because it's HD and it's super ultra wide, right? It's just so much being captured. So I was able to put it on YouTube, and I'm going to try to give you guys the link so you can see me play poorly. Cool. But you get to see the scale, like because I'm running into a bunch of enemies. I'm like, this is wild. But trying to record and play at the same time, you're gonna laugh at me. I was fumbling. I was getting the business. But yeah, so I played a little bit of that. I should say a lot more of that. Really enjoying it on the new rig. I played a little bit of Call of Duty, like, so it's really good. Like, I like the campaign. It's probably the best. Like, I skipped at least 11 Call of Duties between Call of Duty Ghosts and this one, but so far it's my second favorite campaign.
Oh wow!
It's like what Modern Warfare 2 was my favorite. I'm sorry, Modern Warfare 4.
Yeah.
is my favorite. There it is. Yeah, 4 is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's hitting all the right notes. It's like very espionage-y. I'm getting some. Here comes a second. Here comes a double cross. I feel it coming up. But if they hit me with the triple cross, I got to put it down. You know how I feel about that, Shannon. You only get so many crosses, and I just like I'm out. And I'm playing that on the Series X, so it was buggy on my PC for whatever reason. It kept freezing and crashing, and it's doing this
PC.
weird thing where it does the 32:9 like natively, but it does this fishbowl thing. So as you're turning, the perspective on the edges is warped. And I tried playing around with the settings. I went to Reddit, and a lot of people are complaining about it. They're like, just playing it 21:9. I'm like, well, I might as well just play it on the TV like a peasant. And then when I booted up on the TV, it looked great. So I was just like, okay, I could play like this. It's fine. It's fine. So I hope after, because I'm only trying to play one game like for real at a time. So I'm gonna try to beat Space Marine 2, and then I'm gonna try to jump back into Call of Duty. Only campaign and maybe zombies. I'm not playing multiplayer. I don't feel bad. It's on Game Pass. I didn't really pay for it, so I did, but I didn't. So it is what it is. The Bills play today, so we're playing the Dolphins at home. So I usually do like Dolphins have not been playing well this season altogether, but we usually play when we do play them. We usually play very well at home, and then the Miami game is kind of iffy, right? So we already played that game, so now we're playing them at home. I think it's going to be like a balmy 60 degrees, so we should be okay. It's not snow flurries, but I think we'll be okay. So that's at 1:00. So I'm excited for that. And then just working on RAM stuff, just trying to, I'm not working on the website yet. I'm waiting to see how Daniel's thing goes, right? I'm going to learn vicariously through you on that front. But, I had the panel, I had an article in Dark Reading, so I get a lot of good buzz. I don't know if Shannon knows because he's not really on LinkedIn or whatever, but I have a little piece in the book by Elizabeth Stevens, right? So building a resilient digital future. She put my picture in there, and I got a couple pages talking about the
Nice.
NIST CSF. So I'm pretty excited about that. So that should also generate some buzz. So I think things are going to go well. I just have to make sure I'm properly scaling and all that other business stuff you don't think about, right? So I have to, make sure I'm taking on the right clients, give them the right value, give them good, word of mouth, so I can continue to grow. Maybe get an employee at some point. Or get into that CMMC business, Chris. Shake my hand.
I don't think this is going to be the case, but I'm hoping we don't have to keep you grounded, right? When you start referring to yourself in third person, hey man,
Nah,
I remember when you were Sergeant Williams, man. Cool off, man.
yeah, not at all, not at all. That's the second time. So you said sorry. So my wife messed me up. It was during the hurricane. I was rationing gas, right? So I finally found some fuel, got the generator running, and then I was telling everybody at the house, like the kids, we're only going to run it for this long, so make sure you plug your stuff in. Like I'm going through the whole rigmarole. She was like, "All right, mess her."
That's
And
hilarious.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I was like, am I doing too much? Like, and then shortly after I filled the generator up again, power came back up.
Nice.
I was like, so it is what it is. But and then we did trick or treating. So I took my youngest and my 2 nieces out, and it was a good time, but it was not the same vibes as years past. So I think the storms really just beat people up. Like even we didn't put up all of our decorations; we just put just enough, right? And barely any kids came to our house. I think my daughter handed out the candy. She said maybe 5 kids stopped by our house.
Wow.
And we went out around the neighborhood, hit up like the kids got a lot of good candy and whatnot, but there are a lot of houses with the lights out. Like I would say less than half the houses than last year were participating. I think people just weren't feeling it. Like we're just tired. So hopefully, Thanksgiving and Christmas, people will start to perk up a little bit, get some Christmas lights out there. Stuff, the inflatables, like stuff that the kids are like walking around the neighborhood and seeing. But yeah, this year is rough. People I got still got tarps on their roofs, so I get it. People are pretty beat down. So hopefully that'll start to perk back up by the end of the year. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm ready for my Bills to hopefully beat these Dolphins. They don't have some kind of weird resurgence. Like, nah, just your season's over. Just chill out. Go through the
Stop trying so hard.
motions. Yeah, go through the motions. Just let's get this W real quick. And then playing some Space Marine later as I hopefully edit these episodes. I have not tried that yet. I've not tried playing a game and edit episodes. So we'll see how that goes. See how impressive or not impressed I am as I try that out. But that's pretty much been it for me. So thank you guys for popping in. Again, it's always a good time. Monday, Tuesday are topics. Wednesday discussion. Thursdays Ask CISSP. And then Fridays everything else just like this. So movies, books, games, all the non-cyber related stuff. Hit us up by all the websites to go by our name. Hit me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. You find me on LinkedIn as well as pretty much every other platform. And where can they find you, Chris?
You can find me on LinkedIn under Chris Abacon, last name spelled Abacon.
And you, Daniel?
On LinkedIn under my name, Daniel Acevedo.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.